everyone, it's Sid here and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my attempt at a deep dive into a situation that shook the Twitch Minecraft community about 5 months ago. This involves Katie Bugs and George Not Found. This is not just a recap. I've spent the last few days re-examining their statements to provide a clear picture of what really happened, while avoiding all the noise and drama that surrounded the story when it first broke. Before we get into anything, I want to make one thing clear. Everything I discuss here is based on my personal interpretation and opinion. Even if it is factually based on something someone else said, it is my perspective and everything is all alleged. To make this easier to follow, I'll be using timestamps from 2 videos from Kate's 2 live streams and 2 of the videos George Not Found posted. Kate's live stream was recorded by somebody, so I'll be putting a link on my description of that person's video, and George's video are going to be the videos he posted on his channels. I'll be using timestamp references such as first video or second video, so you know where we are on the timeline and what I'm referring to. I'm also going to put snippets of the live streams and videos on here so you could keep track. Katie starts the video waiting for people to join, and then she starts tearing up at what was about to be revealed because of how it was affecting her. People had an issue on how she was crying because they said it wasn't devastating enough, which I feel like is kind of dumb, because how are you going to tell people how to cry? But everyone goes through things differently, especially since she spoke about this months after it happened, and I personally feel like the amount of emotion she was investing in it would have been different if she spoke about it only a week after it happened. And I honestly wouldn't call her reaction crying earlier in the video. I think it's just her having nerves. For example, if you look at 5 minutes and 21 seconds in, she actually starts crying, and then 11 minutes in, she's literally shaking, which is something that even I couldn't figure out how to fake. So unless you guys are convinced that Katie is this low-key actor who is trying to start a career off of George's clout or whatever, I just could not figure out how she could fake a reaction like that. To me, it felt very genuine. She also states that she did not feel comfortable talking about what happened to her because she doesn't know if people are allowed to talk about it. And then she talked about how someone was about to leak the story, so she decided to do it on her own terms, which obviously is the smartest decision, because I just feel like things might get even more out of hand than it already had if someone else spoke about it.
A little while ago, my story had almost been leaked without me knowing. So here it is on my terms.
Another issue people had with Katie was how she phrased her age. She said that she was freshly 18, and people were mad at that because she was actually 18 years old and 5 months, and they felt like her age didn't really matter because she is a legal adult. However, I think that's honestly very disingenuous, because Katie is 18 and a half and George is 26 years old, which means that George had been an adult for 8 years before Katie even turned 18. It's not the same. A 26-year-old should not be looking for a relationship or think that an 18-year-old is an appropriate partner for him. And I honestly think that doesn't even matter to George, because this is after George already released 2 videos and a couple of tweets, and he had not acknowledge Katie's age or the difference in their age. However, he did acknowledge how that could have changed, how that could have influenced the amount of experiences each people had, which in my opinion doesn't really make any sense, because some people could be more experienced than Katie while being younger than Katie, and some people could be less experienced than Katie while being older than Katie. So her age doesn't really matter when it comes to experiences, but her age does matter when it comes to their age gap and their difference in their stages as adults. Katie should have never been considered an appropriate partner for George to start with. George then DMs Katie on Instagram after the first after party in Dream's room, where she had her age in her username, and she felt like that was enough for George to know how old she was. However, it was actually in her username and not her bio, and George does show screenshots proving that. However, I don't think that's good enough in my opinion, because Katie had her name in her username, and I think George got her Instagram from Dream. I cannot prove that. None of them talked about how George managed to get Katie's Instagram, but if George is a content creator that has such a strong brand recognition, then him asking Bart the numbers or what her username meant makes sense, because these are strangers who are content creators. So an easy way for an icebreaker is to ask each other what their brands mean and what the names in their bios mean. So even if George had no idea to determine what the number in her bio meant, he could have still asked, but he genuinely didn't care about Katie or even cared to get to know Katie. I think he just felt like it was something that was going to happen, the con, and then, whatever happens in Vegas ends in Vegas, and he didn't really care to get to know Katie after that. And in my opinion, George is one of the most influential people when it comes to content creation, especially in their niche of Minecraft or live streams or just, gaming or whatever. So he knew he knew what having numbers in your bio or your username meant, because he's not 30, he's not 45, he's 26 years old. So he is part of that trend. He is on the side of the internet where people put the year they were born in, how old they are in their bios. So I don't really think it makes any sense that he is trying to provide a benefit of a doubt for himself by making it seem like he had no way to know what the number in her age in her bio meant or what the number in her username meant, because he knew. He's not 30. He knows how people try to stand out. He knows the importance of having a strong brand. And even if he didn't, he could have asked. A lot of things that happened at these parties could have been avoided if George just asked. But he genuinely didn't care to get to know Katie, because that's not what his intent was with her.
When we got to the hotel room, it was the creator, the girl was talking to, and his best friend. The two of them and the three of us. Not much happened that first night, just some drinking and talking at a table. The guy's friend had been passing flirts at me the entire night, but because he was the oldest in the room, we assumed he didn't know my age. Later that night, when I left, I received Instagram DMs from him, and in my Instagram bio, in bold, was my age, 18, confirming he knew how old I was.
I also saw people criticizing her friends for providing her alcohol, which is irrelevant to me, because what does that even have to do with the situation? This does not really mean that she was lying about them pushing alcohol on her and her friends. It just means that she was 18, making irresponsible decisions. 18-year-olds are allowed to do that. At the end of the day, they went to Dream's hotel room after the second after party, and that's where they were provided even more alcohol without any verification of her age to determine if she was over the legal age of drinking alcohol. And having a wristband of a random person having a picture of a random person in a wristband doesn't really prove anything, because after a party where you no longer need your wristband to get alcohol, you would obviously take it off, and they went to Dream's hotel room after the second party. So it doesn't really mean anything. Like, they could have taken it off even if they were over the age of 21 or happened to find a way to get a wristband.
At the time, all of us girls were already really drunk from the party we were coming from, stumbling and everything. There was more alcohol in the room, and we were encouraged to drink some more as they offered the bottles to us. They said they would join us in drinking and insisted on drinking games, and, already drunk, I obviously complied.
And then people asked why she kept on drinking when she was already too drunk. First, she claimed that that alcohol was being pushed on her, and second, we could all understand how when you get to a point where you're drunk, you don't want to stop drinking because you don't want to hit that low. You don't want to get to the point where alcohol is no longer being supplied to your system and you go through withdrawal. And I don't think she should be faulted for the reaction anyone would make, for the actions anyone would take when they're drinking alcohol. Most people don't stop drinking alcohol because they don't want to get to the point where they are experiencing withdrawal and is no longer having fun on the high of being drunk. Both people admitted that they were making sex jokes, and that was where Katie actually revealed that she was a virgin. So in my opinion, two things could be correct. It's either George and his friends are making sex jokes with people that they've known for less than 5 days, or they asked everyone how old they were to make sure that they are allowed to talk about sex in front of them, which then proves that the George was out here making jokes with people that he did not know their age, or that he knew that Katie was 18 and felt that it was legal for him to make sex jokes in front of Katie. Because things like this tend to find George and Dream. They always end up in situations where they have been accused of taking advantage of people because of their power, because of their influence, because they allegedly don't care about consent. So I think that Katie is telling the truth when she said that George was there when she said her age, because I honestly do believe that, seeing their track records, they thought that asking people how old they were to make sure that they were allowed to talk about sex in front of them is actually what happened, to avoid them waking up to another allegation of them taking advantage of people or minors.
Right before the incident, I had answered a question about my age. We were playing a drinking game and talking about sex, and I admitted to everyone in the room that I was 18 and that I was a virgin at the time.
Katie then proceeds to actually make allegations against George, saying that he put his hand under my shirt and slowly went to places I did not want them to. After the first live stream, without any reply or statement from George, I really don't understand how people took that statement and felt like she was talking about being tickled. When someone puts their hands in your shirt and go to places, meaning that he moved his hands, not his fingers. I mean, I don't understand how you could tickle someone with your palm, but maybe, you guys know how to or whatever. But when someone puts their hands in your shirt and go to places that you don't want them to, how the hell do you get tickling from that? And I really hate how they made it seem like she had no idea what the difference between tickling and inappropriately touching somebody is, and belittling her experiences. That was messed up in my opinion.
It was a little after that when I resorted to playing games on my phone when it happened. Out of nowhere, I felt him slip his hand under my clothes, sitting next to me on the couch in front of everyone. He disguised it with a simple, "Are you ticklish?" I coughed out a no, still staring at my phone. I was overly aware of the fact that we were in front of other people, the fact that everyone else was sitting around us, watching us, including my best friend, and that his hand was inching further to places I hadn't asked for it to be.
And then she said that George made a game out of it, touching her in certain places, and she did not state where, and he was trying to get her to lose the game.
He made a game out of my embarrassment, where he would touch me in certain areas to make me lose the phone game I was playing.